silent distress call. The night sky above the alien colony was filled with smoke. Buildings burned, streets cracked, and voices screamed in the distance. For 3 days, the colony of Vayrith had been under attack from raiders, merciless scavengers, who came with fire and chains. The defenders had fallen one by one, and the proud alien city had become nothing more than a hunting ground. In the governor's hall, the alien leaders sent one last desperate signal. Their long fingers trembled. As they pressed the console, a message pulsed out into the dark void of space. "This is Vayrith. We are under siege. Any ally, please respond. We beg for salvation." The signal echoed through the void, but the galaxy remained silent. The Galactic Council had already chosen to look away. Vayrith was too small, too weak, and too poor for their fleets to waste time on. The Council ships would never come. The raiders knew this truth, and they laughed as they tightened their grip. But far away beyond the quiet stars, a different fleet listened. Buried deep in the black, where the old patrol routes no longer reached, lay a fleet most had forgotten. They were not sleek or graceful. Like Council cruisers, their hulls were scarred, armored, and blackened from wars no one dared to speak of anymore. They were the ships of Earth, the Deathworlders, and though the galaxy had tried to erase them from memory, they still waited, still watched, still listened. On the bridge of the lead vessel, the Iron Resolve, Captain Arik Hale leaned forward. The distress beacon played again, faint but clear. His crew looked to him, silent, waiting for orders. No one had heard such a call in years. No one had dared answer. Arik's eyes were cold as the void. "Set course," he said, his voice steady. The helmsman hesitated. "Captain, it could be a trap." "Then let us spring it," Arik replied. The engines flared, and the fleet moved like shadows rising from the deep. Back on Vayrith, the governor stood at the balcony of the hall. He looked up at the burning sky. His people had gathered. In the streets, mothers holding children, fathers clutching makeshift weapons. Their eyes were hollow, their voices whispers. "Did anyone hear us?" They asked, "Will anyone come?" But the stars gave no answer. Only silence. The raiders roared as they marched through the broken gates. Metal boots stomped on stone. Their banners of skulls waved high. One of them shouted, "No one is coming to save you. No one ever does." The aliens lowered their heads, their hope fading like smoke in the night. And then, the sky changed. At first, it was only a shadow, a faint blot against the burning clouds, then another and another. The governor raised his eyes, his mouth trembling. Ships, vast and dark, broke through the clouds like giants of steel. They moved in silence, no colors, no flags, only the mark of Earth, scratched and scarred. The people gasped, their whispers turning to fear. "Deathworlders," someone said, the word cutting. Like a blade, the stories had called them monsters, humans who lived on a world of storms, fire, and beasts. A cursed race who survived only by fighting. If they had come, was it truly salvation, or something worse? On the ground, the raiders stopped in their tracks. Their laughter died, replaced with unease. One of them spat, "No, it cannot be." They were gone. But then the first human ship opened its railguns. A storm of metal and fire ripped through the raider lines. Armored carriers exploded. War machines shattered into pieces. The ground shook as the Deathworlders struck with brutal precision. The alien civilians dropped to their knees, their hands covering their ears as thunder filled the sky. The raiders screamed, broken under a force they could not withstand. The battle was over in minutes. The humans had come without warning, fought without hesitation, and ended the threat with terrifying speed. When the silence returned, smoke drifted across the battlefield. The alien people looked up, their eyes wide with terror and awe. Above them, the Deathworlders' fleet held formation, silent and watchful. They did not speak. They did not explain. They simply remained, their presence heavier than any promise. Governor Tayran stepped forward, his voice shaking. "Why are you here?" he whispered, though no answer came. In the distance, the largest human ship lowered from the sky. Its engines thundered like storms, its shadow swallowing the broken city. From within, a single signal pulsed across every channel. 2 words, sharp and final, we answer. The people of Vareth shivered. They had prayed for salvation, and salvation had come, wrapped in iron and fire. But as the Deathworlder's ships hovered above them, they wondered if their prayers had brought something far greater and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Hope turns to fear. The colony of Vareth was silent after the storm. The raiders lay broken in the streets, their ships burning across the horizon. Children clung to their parents, too afraid to cry. The people whispered in disbelief, their voices trembling. "We are alive," they said. "We survived," but their eyes never left the sky. For above them, the black ships of the Deathworlders still hung like watchful predators. Their dark hulls gleamed faintly in the firelight, scarred with countless battles. These were not saviors of peace, not gentle guardians from stories. These were war machines, born from a cursed world where survival meant strength. The very sight of them was enough to make hearts race with fear. Governor Terran stood on the balcony of his broken hall. His robes were torn, his face blackened by smoke. He raised a trembling hand toward the heavens. "Are they here to help?" he whispered. "Or to claim us?" No answer came. Only silence. The Deathworlder's fleet held position, watching, waiting. It was like standing beneath a mountain ready to fall. The alien people looked to their governor for hope, but he too was unsure. Had salvation truly arrived? Or had the gods of death simply chosen a new hunting ground? Then the largest human ship, the Iron Resolve, descended lower. Its engines shook the air, windows shattered, and the people dropped to their knees. A ramp unfolded, grinding against the stone of the plaza. The crowd held their breath, their bodies stiff with fear. And then they saw them. Humans, tall, armored, their movements sharp and controlled, their faces hidden behind black helmets. They walked with the calm of predators, as if the world itself belonged to them. The alien civilians flinched, pressing back against the walls. Even the bravest warriors among them lowered their eyes. The stories had not lied. The Deathworlders were terrifying. The captain of the humans stepped forward. His name was Arik Hale, though none of the aliens knew it yet. His voice carried through a translator, deep and steady. "You called for aid," he said, his tone like stone. "And," we answered. The governor bowed his head, struggling to find words. "Yes, we begged the stars for help," he said, "but why you?" His voice cracked with fear. "Why the Deathworlders?" The crowd murmured, some angry, some desperate. One alien elder shouted, "You are killers. Your world is cursed. You bring war wherever you go." The words echoed in the plaza. The humans did not respond. They only stood still, their armor glinting in the firelight. Captain Hale's visor turned toward the elder. For a long moment silence hung heavy. Then his voice came, slow and final. "We do not bring war," he said, "we end it." The words struck like thunder. The people gasped, some shrinking back in fear, others staring in awe. Was this promise, or was it a threat? The aliens could not decide, and that uncertainty ate at their hearts. Suddenly, alarms blared across the plaza. The raiders were not finished. Fragments of their fleet still floated above. From the wreckage, small attack craft launched, screaming, toward the city. The aliens panicked, running for cover. Governor Terran cried out, "Not again, not again." But before a single alien soldier could raise a weapon, the Deathworlders moved. Their captain raised a hand. Human railguns thundered from orbit, and the attack craft vanished in storms of fire. Every strike was precise, every blast deadly. It was not a battle. It was an execution. The aliens trembled, their fear mixing with wonder. The Deathworlders had saved them again, but the way they fought was beyond comprehension. No hesitation, no mercy, no warning. The galaxy's stories had always painted them as monsters, but monsters had just saved their world. As the smoke cleared, Captain Hale turned back to the governor. "This will not be the last attack," he said coldly. "Your enemies will return, and when they do, we will be here." His words were meant as assurance, but they cut through the alien people like blades, because in their hearts they no longer knew what to fear more. The raiders who had hunted them, or the Deathworlders, who had answered their call. That night Varith did not sleep. Families huddled together, whispering prayers. Some thanked the humans for their salvation. Others cursed the stars for bringing such dangerous saviors. And in the quiet of his chamber, Governor Tayren stared into the dark. He had begged for help, and help had come, but he wondered if his desperate cry had brought something worse, something the galaxy itself had tried to forget. Above the colony, the Deathworlder's fleet remained in silence, their ships casting shadows over the broken city, and in those shadows, hope and fear lived side by side. The first clash the colony of Varith woke to a strange sky. Above them, the Deathworlder's fleet circled like silent wolves. The alien people went about their day in fear, their eyes always lifted to the heavens. Some prayed, some cursed, and some whispered that maybe the humans would leave soon. But deep in their hearts, they knew the Deathworlders never left without reason. Governor Tayren walked through the ruined plaza. Children hid behind their mothers when human soldiers passed. Merchants closed their stalls, afraid to draw attention. The humans did not speak, did not smile. They only watched, their eyes cold behind black helmets. They stood like statues, as if guarding a secret none could understand. In the governor's hall, the alien leaders argued. One shouted, "They will not protect us, they will consume us." Another cried, "Better them than the raiders, they saved us once, they may save us again." The council fractured, torn between fear and hope. But before they could decide, the alarms screamed again. From the edge of the system, new raider fleets appeared. This time, larger, faster, reinforced by allies who smelled blood. Dozens of warships emerged from the void, their weapons charged, their voices crackling across open channels. "This world is ours," they roared. "No Deathworlder ghosts can stop us." The aliens fell into despair. They had nothing left to fight with, no fleets, no armies, no strength. Their hands shook as they watched the skies darken. Would this be the end after all? But on the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Captain Arik Hale was already prepared. He had seen this before. Again and again, predators always returned for the wounded. His voice cut through the silence, sharp as steel. "All batteries, fire!" The humans unleashed their power. Railguns lit up the void with streams of molten metal. Missiles streaked like falling stars, tearing through raider hulls, one by one. Enemy ships exploded, their wreckage scattering across space. The alien civilians stared upward, their mouths open in awe and terror. It was not a battle, it was slaughter. On the ground, alien soldiers who had once mocked the humans fell silent. They had never seen such violence delivered with such precision. The Deathworlders did not hesitate, did not wait for surrender. Every target was destroyed the moment it was marked. The humans fought as if the enemy had no right to exist. The raider commander's voice cracked across the channel, desperate now. "Fall back! Fall back!" He screamed. But it was too late. Human ships broke through their formations like blades through flesh. The last raider cruiser tried to run, engines burning at full power. A single human railgun volley pierced its core, turning it into a sunburst of fire. The battle ended in minutes. The sky cleared of enemies, leaving only wreckage and silence. The Deathworlder's fleet regrouped, untouched, unbroken. Not a single human ship had fallen. The aliens below looked at each other in disbelief. This was not war as they understood it. This was domination. Governor Tayren stood on the balcony, his hands trembling. He had prayed for rescue, and rescue had come, but it came with fire so absolute it felt like judgment. Behind him, an elder whispered, "Do you see now, Governor? They are not our saviors. They are executioners." But another replied softly, "And yet we are alive." That night, the people of Varith did not celebrate. There were no songs, no dances, only silence. Fires burned on the horizon where the raiders had once landed. Families sat together in the dark, wondering what tomorrow would bring. The Deathworlders had saved them again, but each strike of their power carried a shadow, a reminder that these humans were not like any other ally. They were a force, unstoppable and untamed. On the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Captain Hale looked at the burning wreckage through the viewport. His officers waited for orders, but he spoke only a few words. "They will send more," he said. "And worse." The crew nodded, none surprised, for humans knew one truth above all. Once war began, it never ended quickly, and in the heart of Vareth, Governor Tayren lay awake. He remembered the human captain's words, "We do not bring war, we end it." But tonight he wondered if war had only just begun. He wondered if the cry for salvation had awakened something far greater, something the galaxy itself would soon come to fear. Above the colony, the Deathworlder's fleet drifted in silence. No banners, no music, no words of comfort, only shadows of steel and fire, and the people of Vareth could not decide which was worse, the enemies who came to kill them or the saviors who killed without hesitation. The captain's warning. The halls of Vareth's governor's palace were cracked and burned, windows shattered, banners torn, yet it still stood. Inside, Governor Tayren gathered his council, their faces pale with fear. They spoke in whispers, their words sharp. Some demanded the humans be sent away. Others insisted they must beg them to stay. No one agreed, except on one truth: the Deathworlders were dangerous. The heavy doors opened, and silence swept the room. Captain Arik Hale entered, his black armor gleaming under the dim lights. 2 human soldiers followed him, their steps measured, their eyes hidden. The alien council shrank back, some clutching their robes. The governor forced himself to stand tall, though his knees trembled. "Captain," Tayren began, his voice strained, "you have saved us twice, for that we are grateful." Arik said nothing at first, his cold gaze sweeping across the chamber. Then he spoke, his voice steady and low. "You called for help. We answered, but know this: your enemies are not finished," the council murmured in panic. Tayren raised a hand to silence them. "Who are these enemies?" he asked. "The raiders have been crushed, have they not?" Arik leaned forward, his words cutting like blades. "The raiders were not acting alone," he said. "They were hired." Gasps filled the chamber. "By whom?" the governor whispered, his throat dry. Arik's helmet tilted slightly. "The Galactic Council." The words struck the room like thunder. The council erupted in disbelief, shouting over each other. "It cannot be!" one cried. "They are our allies," another shouted. "They protect the galaxy." But the humans stood unmoved, their silence colder than the air itself. Arik spoke again, his voice louder now. "They saw your weakness, your poverty, your lack of power, and they marked you as expendable. They sent raiders, so they would not dirty their own hands. This is how they keep their order." Through fear and silence, Governor Tayren staggered back, his eyes wide. "No," he whispered. "The council would not abandon us, not betray us." But even as he said it, doubt coiled in his heart. He remembered the unanswered distress signals, the long silence. He remembered the laughter of the raiders when they claimed the council would never come. And now he understood. One of the alien counselors, old and weary, turned to Tayren. "Governor," he said softly, "when the raiders marched through our streets, whose banners flew with them?" The governor closed his eyes, for he had seen them too. Fragments of council emblems painted on scavenged armor, proof that could no longer be denied. Arik stepped closer, his presence heavy. "You wanted salvation," he said, "but salvation has a price." The room fell silent, all eyes on him. "What price?" Tayren asked, his voice almost breaking. Arik removed his helmet, revealing hard, scarred features, eyes that had seen endless war. His words came slow, each one heavy. "The price is war." The council froze. War with the council meant death, exile, destruction. It meant turning against the most powerful force in the galaxy. Tayren's hand shook. "You would drag us into this," he whispered. "You would use us as your shield." Arik's jaw tightened. "We did not start this," he said. "They brought war to your doors. We only finished what they began." His eyes locked with the governor's. "You can fear us, you can hate us, but know this: without us you are already dead." The governor sank into his chair, his heart pounding. He knew the truth of those words, but still the fear consumed him. The Deathworlders had saved them. Yes, but now they demanded more. They demanded loyalty in a war that would shake the stars. Outside, the people of Varith gathered in the streets. They looked up at the black ships above. Some called them saviors. Others called them demons. No, one knew which was true. That night, as darkness fell, a message spread across the colony. It was not from the governor, not from the council. It was from the Deathworlders themselves, broadcast across every channel, clear and cold. "This is not the end," the voice of Arik Hale declared. "The council will come, and when they do, we will be ready. And when they strike, your choice will be made. Stand with us or be swept aside with them." The people trembled, for they had begged for salvation, and salvation had come. But now they saw the truth. Salvation had come wrapped in war, and there would be no turning. Back above them, the Deathworlder's fleet shifted, their engines glowing faintly in the void. They looked less like rescuers now, and more like executioners waiting for judgment. And in the silence that followed, the colony of Varith felt the weight of a future that would forever change their place in the galaxy. The council's shadow across the stars, whispers spread like fire. The Deathworlders had returned. A forgotten fleet had risen from the dark, crushing raiders in minutes. The news reached every corner of the galaxy, and with it came fear. On distant worlds, alien citizens gathered around broadcast screens. They saw grainy images of black warships hovering above Varith. They heard recordings of human weapons tearing fleets apart, and they asked the same question in every language. Why? Now, why return after all this time? In the chambers of the Galactic Council, the leaders argued. Massive holograms flickered with the faces of dozens of species. Some shouted in anger, others in panic. One counselor roared, "They should not exist. They were destroyed centuries ago," another hissed. "And yet their ships blot out the stars once more." The High Chancellor slammed his hand against the table. "Enough," he barked. "If the Deathworlders have returned, then they must be crushed." Fear rippled through the chamber, but pride outweighed reason. The Council had ruled the UR galaxy for centuries, unchallenged and absolute. They could not allow the return of a people who had defied them before. But among the shadows of the chamber, not all agreed. Some species remembered a time long ago, a time when the humans fought not to conquer, but to protect. They remembered battles where Deathworlders bled beside them, yet their voices were drowned by the roar of fear, and the Council voted for war. Back on Varith, the alien people lived in unease. The humans had saved them, but their presence was like a blade hanging overhead. Children pointed at the black ships in the sky and asked their mothers, "Will they stay?" Merchants whispered, "If the Council comes, our world will burn." No one slept easily. Governor Tayran stood on the balcony once more, his eyes heavy with exhaustion, his heart torn in doubt. Behind him, the Alien Council argued again. "Send them away," one said, "before the Council arrives. Beg them to stay," another countered. "Without them we are defenseless." Every voice clashed, but no answer came. Meanwhile, in the streets, common citizens argued as well. Some left offerings of food and flowers near human patrols. Others spat in their direction, hurling curses. One young alien shouted, "You will bring the Council's wrath upon us all." The human soldier did not reply, only stood silent as stone. Above on the iron resolve, Captain Arik Hale studied the stars. His officers brought him reports of Council fleet movements. Ships were gathering in secret, massing near border sectors. The Council was preparing, and they would come in force. Hale's jaw tightened as he listened. He knew what was coming. It would not be raids, but war. One officer asked, "Captain, should we withdraw before they strike?" Arik shook his head, his voice cold. "We do not run, not from them," another whispered. "But can we stand against the Council alone?" Hale's eyes narrowed. "Alone, no," he said. "But not. Everyone in this galaxy believes the Council's lies. Some will remember the truth." Down below, Governor Tayran was summoned to a secret meeting. A hooded messenger brought him a coded message. It bore the seal of a council world. But not of its rulers. Inside were words of warning. The council has chosen to erase your colony. Prepare for fire. Terran's blood ran cold. He had begged the stars for help, and the stars had answered. But now he realized the price was heavier than he could bear. That night, the Deathworlders made their presence known once more. A single, massive ship descended into orbit, its engines rumbling like thunder. Its shadow swept across the broken city, and through every screen, every radio, a voice spoke. It was Arik Hale, steady and final. "The Council has moved against you," he said. "They will not forgive your call for aid. They will not forgive our answer. But hear this. If they come for you, they will find us waiting. Stand firm, for their shadow cannot last forever." The aliens listened, some with tears, some with rage. They had prayed for salvation, and it had come. But now they stood between two titans. One was the Council, the other the Deathworlders. And the small colony of Varith would be the spark that lit the fire of war. Above them, the human fleet adjusted. Formation. Their ships locked into lines like wolves circling prey, silent, patient, ready. And in the distance, across the dark void, the first shadows of the Council's armada began to move. Fire in the void. The stars above Varith were no longer empty. They burned with the arrival of a great armada. The Galactic Council had come, not with whispers or shadows, but with fire. Hundreds of ships emerged from the void, their hulls shining, with the banners of power. Each one carried the weight of authority, each one a hammer of judgment. In the streets of the colony, the people froze. They looked up and saw the sky filled with fleets so vast it blotted out the sun. Children cried. Parents clutched them close. Some fell to their knees, believing the end had come. The Council had never gathered such power for a single world. But this was no longer about Varith. This was about the Deathworlders. On the bridge of the Iron Resolve, alarms rang. Officers rushed to their stations, their faces calm but sharp. Captain Arik Hale stood tall, his eyes locked on the endless tide of enemy ships. "They have come at last," he said quietly. His second officer whispered, "So many, Captain, far more than us." Arik's jaw tightened. "They think numbers are enough, but they have forgotten who we are." The human fleet moved into formation. Their ships spread like blades, sleek. In their deadly silence, the Deathworlders did not boast, did not threaten. They prepared, like hunters who had waited for this moment their whole lives. A council commander's voice filled the channels, booming and arrogant. "This is the authority of the galaxy. You are surrounded. Surrender now or be erased." The words echoed, across space, reaching every screen on Varith. For a moment, silence followed. Then the reply came, Arik Hale's voice deep and steady. "No surrender," he said. "We are the Deathworlders, and we do not bow." The first shot came from the Council. A wall of plasma fire streaked across the void. It lit the sky like a false dawn, crashing into human shields. The air itself trembled as explosions tore through the black. The battle had begun. Human ships answered in kind. Railguns roared, hurling storms of metal that cut through Council. Cruisers like paper, missiles streaked in every direction, weaving between enemy fire one by one. Council ships shattered, their wreckage spinning into the void. But still more came, wave after wave. The armada pressed forward, determined to crush the humans in sheer numbers. On the ground, the aliens watched in awe. The night sky above them had become a sea of fire. Great ships clashed like titans, every blast shaking the colony below. Some aliens wept, believing their world would be destroyed in the crossfire. Others cheered with every council ship that fell. They had never seen such defiance, never seen anyone face the council and survive. But survival was not certain. Human ships burned, too, some vanishing in bursts of flame. Voices cried across comms, "We've lost the Vigilant Star. The Hammer's Edge is gone." Each loss was heavy, yet the humans pressed on. They fought not like machines, but like predators cornered. Every strike was fierce, every maneuver precise. Even surrounded, they refused to break. Captain Hale stood unmoving, his eyes fixed on the largest council dreadnought. It loomed like a mountain, bristling with weapons. It had destroyed whole fleets before, but Hale's voice was calm. "Target the dreadnought's core," he ordered. The iron resolve fired, its railguns thundering again and again. The blasts pierced the dreadnought's shields, tearing through armor, and with a final strike, the giant ship exploded in a storm of fire that lit the void. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, for in that moment, the myth had returned to truth. The Deathworlders were no ghost stories, no forgotten race. They were here, alive, and unstoppable. The Council armada hesitated, its perfect lines broken. Fear spread through their ranks. For the first time in centuries, they faced an enemy that would not bow, and the galaxy watched as the impossible unfolded. The Deathworlders stood against the Council, and they did not fall. Governor Terran stood. On the balcony, his people crowded behind him. They saw the flames of war streak across the heavens, and though fear gripped them, a strange hope burned too. For in the fire and chaos, they saw a truth the galaxy had long forgotten. When humans fought, they fought to the end. Above them, the battle raged on. The void itself screamed with thunder and fire. And in the heart of it all, Captain Arik Hale whispered the words that drove his people. "We do not surrender. We endure." The Deathworlder's oath. The battle above Vareth slowly faded into silence. Wreckage drifted across the void, glowing with fire and sparks. Hundreds of council ships lay broken, their twisted remains floating like shattered bones. The human fleet still stood, scarred, battered, but alive. And in that moment, the galaxy realized something it had long tried to forget. The Deathworlders had returned. On the ground, the people of Vareth filled the streets. They looked to the sky where victory blazed. Some cheered, tears running down their faces. Others fell to their knees, trembling in fear of what the future now held. For victory did not mean safety. Victory meant the galaxy itself had changed forever. Inside the Iron Resolve, Captain Arik Hale stood at the command deck. The bridge was dim, filled with smoke and sparks from damaged panels. Officers worked quietly, their faces grim but proud. They had done the impossible, they had defied the Council. But Hale's eyes were not on the wreckage, they were fixed on the stars beyond. He knew this was only the beginning. "Open a channel," Hale ordered. The crew obeyed, linking every frequency, every screen, every comm line. From the core worlds to the outer rim, from pirate dens to refugee colonies, the voice of the Deathworlders would be heard. Static filled the air, then silence, and then his voice, steady, cold, unshaken. "This is Captain Arik Hale of Earth," he said. "We are the Deathworlders, we are the children of a cursed world, a world the galaxy feared and tried to erase. You thought we were gone, broken, dust in your history. But we are here, and we do not bow." His words spread like fire across the galaxy, in marketplaces, in barracks, in council halls. Every ear listened, some gasped in fear, others clenched their fists in quiet hope. The council leaders stared in silence, their faces pale, for the ghosts they had once buried now spoke again. Hale's voice grew harder, like iron striking steel. "You ignored the cries of the weak. You let raiders burn their homes. You sold their lives for silence. But we heard them and we answered. If you prey on the helpless, know this. Your war is now with us." On Vareth, the people trembled as his words echoed through the streets. Mothers clutched their children tighter. Elders bowed their heads. Young warriors raised their fists to the sky, inspired by the fire of his voice. The Deathworlders had become something more than soldiers. They had become judgment. Arik paused, his gaze sweeping across the stars. "We are not saviors," he said. "We are not saints. We are survivors, and we endure. And from this day forward, we swear this oath." His words rang like thunder. No cry will go unanswered. No tyrant will go unchallenged. No world will be abandoned to darkness, not while we breathe. The galaxy shook with the weight of those words. To some, it was a promise of hope. To others, a declaration of war. And to the Council, it was the birth of their greatest enemy. The channel closed. Silence returned. but the echoes of his voice lingered in every corner of the galaxy. On the bridge, the crew of the Iron Resolve sat in silence, their eyes bright with pride. They had spoken not only for themselves, but for all of humanity. They had reminded the galaxy of a truth long buried. Deathworlders did not vanish, they endured. Governor Tayran stood among his people. He looked at the black fleet above, its scarred hull still glowing from battle. Fear still lived in his heart. But now there was something else. Respect. The humans had not abandoned them. They had not hesitated. And though their presence was terrifying, their strength had saved his world. He whispered softly, as if to himself, "They do not bring war, they end it." And the people around him repeated it, their voices carrying through the streets. It became a chant, a truth they clung to. For the galaxy had many predators, but now there was one predator greater than all, and it had chosen to fight for the weak. Above Vayrith, the human fleet shifted into silence, engines glowing faintly, shadows stretching across the stars. They left behind no banners, no promises of empire, only a single beacon in orbit, pulsing with a simple message: we answer. And as it blinked in the endless night, the galaxy trembled, for salvation had come not with gentle hands, but with steel and fire, and the oath of the Deathworlders would echo through the stars for generations to come.